Lewis gets blasted for his recent comments. Verstappen has given up on Red Bull. And Leclerc makes a clear admission to Ferrari. Let's get into the latest F1 news. You ever hear something from a world champion that makes you stop and say, wait, what? Well, Max Verstappen just did that. The three-time Formula One world champion dropped a comment that no one saw coming. And it wasn't just surprising, it was demotivating. According to former strategist Bernie Collins, Verstappen's words could shake Red Bull to its core. So what exactly did Max say? And why are some people inside the paddock calling it a sign that Red Bull might be in serious trouble? Let's break it down. During the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, Verstappen made a statement that has left fans and insiders scratching their heads. He said, and I quote, "We won't win another race this season." That's not a mid-pack driver talking. That's not a rookie struggling to find grip. That's Max Verstappen, the guy who dominated the 2023 season with nearly untouchable consistency. And now he's saying Red Bull won't win another race? It wasn't a passing joke. It wasn't sarcasm. It was caught on team radio in the heat of the race weekend after struggling in practice and qualifying. This isn't just about one bad weekend. It's about something deeper. Let's pause for a second and look at the psychology behind this. Why would a driver, especially a champion, say something like that? Was it frustration, a calculated warning, or something more telling? Psychologically, public statements like these can serve two purposes. One, they can act as pressure releases. High performers sometimes voice negativity out loud, not because they believe it, but because saying it gives them emotional relief. And two, they can be silent messages, not to fans, but to the team. Almost like saying, "I'm not happy and I'm letting everyone know." Think about that for a moment. Max Verstappen, known for his control and laser focus, making a pessimistic prediction like that? That's not normal. Now, Bernie Collins, former Aston Martin strategy chief and now a respected voice on F1 broadcasts, reacted quickly. She called the comment pretty demotivating. And she's right. Imagine you're an engineer at Red Bull. You've worked late nights, you've pushed the car to the limit, and then your star driver, the face of the team, says you're not going to win another race. Not one, all season. How do you stay motivated after that? This is where team dynamics come into play. Words like Max's can unintentionally spread doubt within a team. And in Formula One, doubt is like oil on a wet track. It only takes a little to cause a major slide. Now let's look at the timing of the comment. The Hungarian Grand Prix was already filled with tension. Verstappen struggled with grip all weekend. The Red Bull didn't look like its dominant self. And to top it all off, he had that controversial incident with Lewis Hamilton again. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The two rivals clashing in the shadows of past seasons. The stewards investigated, the fans debated, but one thing was clear: Max was off his rhythm. And when drivers feel like the car is working against them instead of with them, frustration builds fast. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Lando Norris won the Hungarian GP in dominant fashion. He didn't need Max to crash out. He didn't need rain or chaos or safety cars. He simply outperformed, and that's what's got everyone talking. Because when Max says we won't win again this season, he's not just reacting to his struggles, he's acknowledging that the field is caught up. McLaren is faster, Mercedes is resurging, Ferrari is still a threat, and Red Bull, they're no longer untouchable. So here's the question we all need to ask. Is Max Verstappen just frustrated, or is he foreshadowing something much bigger? You see, words matter, especially in a sport where mental edge is everything. Champions don't just win with skill, they win with mindset. When Schumacher was behind, he never said, "We're done." When Hamilton struggled in 2022, he said, "We'll come back stronger." Even Alonso, with 2 decades of underdog fights, never counted himself out publicly. So when Max, the reigning world champ, says the wins are over, that's not just a message to the fans. That's a message to the garage, to Christian Horner, to Adrian Newey, and maybe even to himself. Now here's the real twist. Verstappen's contract with Red Bull runs through 2028, but F1 insiders know this sport moves fast, and loyalty? That only lasts as long as the wins do. If Red Bull starts slipping, if McLaren keeps rising, and if Max starts feeling like he's carrying the team more than the car is carrying him, who knows what the future holds? In the end, this wasn't just a hot mic moment, it was a crack in the Red Bull armor, a glimpse behind the curtain of a team that's dominated but might now be doubting. And in a sport like Formula One, where margins are measured in milliseconds, even the smallest doubt can spiral into a downfall. So now, we wait. Will Red Bull bounce back stronger at Spa? Will Max walk back his words, or double down? And most importantly, was this the beginning of the end for Red Bull's dominance, or just a bad day at the office? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you're a fan of F1 drama, rivalries, and the raw truth behind the grid, make sure to subscribe. Because in Formula One, the real race doesn't just happen on the track, it happens in the mind. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, global icon, the man who redefined what it means to be fast, fearless, and focused. But today, one voice says it might be time for him to walk away. Former F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone has just delivered a blunt message, one that's got the entire paddock whispering. Lewis is cheating himself, he says. If I were him, I would stop. Let's unpack what that really means and why Ferrari, of all teams, is now being told to look somewhere else entirely. Hamilton shocked the world when he signed with Ferrari for 2025. The scarlet red overalls, the legacy of Schumacher, the hope of a long-awaited championship return. It all felt like the final chapter of an epic story. But for Bernie Ecclestone, that move might be less of a fairy tale and more of a slow fade. Ecclestone didn't hold back. I'd like to see him retire while he's still a hero, he said. Now, he's doing things he shouldn't be doing. He's not Lewis. Pause on that for a second. He's not Lewis. That's a powerful statement. It plays into one of the strongest psychological triggers there is, identity loss. When a legend starts acting in ways that feel off-brand, fans notice, rivals notice, and legacy? Legacy can start to slip. Bernie's words aren't just criticism, they're a warning. So is Hamilton really cheating himself by continuing? Well, it depends on how you see greatness. Some believe champions should fight until the very end. That retirement is surrender. That hunger never dies. But others argue the opposite. That true greatness is knowing when to bow out, when to protect the story you've built rather than risk rewriting it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Ecclestone didn't just suggest Hamilton should retire. He went further. He said Ferrari should look at young blood instead. Two names stood out, Isaac Hadjar and Gabriel Bortoleto. Two rising stars, no world titles, no legacy to protect, but full of energy, speed, and raw ambition. To quote Bernie again, Ferrari should steal one of them. They're ready. This recommendation taps into a powerful psychological principle, the allure of potential. We are often more excited by what could be rather than what has already been, even if what has been is legendary. Hamilton is known, proven, predictable. Hadjar and Bortoleto, they represent the unknown. And in F1, the unknown can be very, very exciting. Let's not forget, Ferrari hasn't won a driver's championship since 2007. That's almost 2 decades of waiting. Every move they make now has to be for the future. And so we arrive at a pivotal tension. Do you bet on legacy, or do you bet on possibility? For Lewis, this might be the ultimate crossroads. The Ferrari move was always going to be high risk, high reward. If he wins, the redemption arc is complete. If he struggles, the narrative turns. And right now, the narrative is turning. Slowly, subtly, but noticeably. Performance hasn't matched expectation. The car isn't dominant, the clock is ticking, and the sport is evolving fast. Here's the thing about time, it doesn't ask for permission, it just keeps moving. And in Formula One, time is brutal. The new generation is faster than ever. Drivers like Piastri, Behrman, and Antonelli are showing that youth isn't a disadvantage, it's a weapon. So where does that leave Hamilton? Psychologically, this is a heavy place to be. You're still giving everything, still pushing, still sacrificing, but the results aren't there. And the noise? It's getting louder. Every legend faces this moment. The internal question, do I still have it? And the fear, what if I don't? For fans, it's emotional too. We want to believe our heroes are eternal, but deep down, we all know they're not. So what happens next? Hamilton could prove everyone wrong. He's done it before. His comeback in 2021 was one of the most electrifying performances the sport has ever seen. But 2025 is different. The competition is deeper. The pressure is higher. and the patience, even among fans, is starting to thin. Let's zoom out for a second. Bernie Ecclestone has always been a controversial figure. Some fans take his words with a grain of salt. Others see him as a guardian of the sport's traditions. But regardless of where you stand, one thing is clear. When Bernie speaks, people listen. And when he says Hamilton should stop, it forces the F1 world to take a long, hard look at what comes next. Let's be honest, Ferrari didn't bring Lewis in just to mentor. They brought him in to win. But if that win doesn't come, will both sides start to rethink the deal? The final chapters of a champion's career are always the hardest to write. Every move is scrutinized. Every race becomes a referendum. But maybe that's what makes it all so compelling. Because Lewis Hamilton isn't just racing cars anymore. He's racing legacy. He's racing the version of himself that once felt unstoppable. And if that version isn't coming back, then Bernie's words might be more than just commentary. They might be a call to protect the myth, to exit on your own terms, to leave before the cheers become sighs. But for now, the season continues. The red suit stays on, the helmet goes back on, and Lewis, he's still fighting. Maybe that's all we can ask from a legend, to fight, to try, to give us one last reason to believe. Because if there's one thing we've learned in Formula One, it's this: never count out Lewis Hamilton. Not yet, not ever. It's not every day that a Formula One team locks horns with a major broadcaster, but Aston Martin just did. And they didn't just whisper about it behind the scenes, they took a public swipe, cutting off Sky Germany's access to their team entirely. Why? Because they believe the media coverage has been unfair, biased, and downright disrespectful. And the real story? It's about more than just Lance Stroll's temper or a few harsh words on TV. This is about power, image, and the growing tension between F1 teams and the media empires that shape their stories. Let's break it down. It started with one word: unprofessional. That's what Ralf Schumacher, a Sky Germany pundit, called Lance Stroll after his angry radio outburst during the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Stroll was frustrated, emotional, and brutally honest on team radio. But instead of brushing it off as just heat of the moment, the Sky Germany panel went in hard, really hard. Comments piled up, judgments followed, and according to Aston Martin, they crossed the line. Now here's the psychology. We all love a bit of drama in sport. It's what keeps us coming back. But there's a tipping point where criticism starts to feel personal. And Aston Martin says that's exactly what happened, not just once, repeatedly. According to insiders, Sky Germany's coverage has built a pattern of negativity, especially around Lance Stroll. And if you're Aston Martin, you start asking, are they analyzing performance or shaping a narrative? So what did the team do? They pulled the plug. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, Aston Martin reportedly blocked access to team members for Sky Germany. No interviews, no behind the scenes, radio silence. And this wasn't just a quiet protest. Sky Germany's own presenters confirmed it live on air. Ralf Schumacher openly said, and I quote, "Aston Martin doesn't like us that much." Even their lead host, Peter Hardnacke, admitted that maybe, just maybe, their coverage was too critical. But here's the question we have to ask. Was Aston Martin being too sensitive, or was the media being too aggressive? Let's talk bias. The media isn't just a mirror reflecting the sport. It's a megaphone that shapes how fans see teams, drivers, and races. And sometimes that megaphone can distort the sound. Negative headlines generate clicks. Hot takes stir up engagement. And in a sport where fan loyalty runs deep, even a small shift in tone can damage reputations. It's called negativity bias. And it's a real psychological effect. Studies show that people remember negative experiences and information more vividly and for longer than positive ones. So when Sky Germany leans into drama, it sticks, especially when it's aimed at a polarizing figure like Lance Stroll. Let's zoom out. Why does this story matter? Because it reveals a power shift in Formula One. Aston Martin is no longer just a midfield team. They've climbed back into relevance. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll are now equal on points, 26 each. They're fighting for position, they're building momentum, and they're demanding respect. By blocking Sky Germany, Aston Martin is drawing a line in the sand. If you want access, give us fairness. In a world where F1 teams rely on media for visibility, but also fear media misrepresentation, it's a bold move. Some might say it's controlling, others say it's protective, but either way, it's strategic. Now, let's get personal. If you were running Aston Martin, what would you do? Would you let pundits slam your driver every weekend? Would you keep giving interviews to people who seem more interested in mocking than analyzing? Or would you say, enough is enough, and take control of your own story? That's exactly what Aston Martin did. And in doing so, they've opened a debate that F1 can't ignore. Where is the line between criticism and character assassination? Between journalism and entertainment? And most importantly, who really controls the narrative in modern Formula One? Let's not forget the human side. Lance Stroll is not just a driver, he's also the son of team owner Lawrence Stroll. And like it or not, that comes with a spotlight that's blinding. People assume he's protected, handed things, undeserving. But behind the scenes, Stroll faces the same pressure as any other driver, maybe more. And when commentators dismiss him with smirks and sarcasm, it's not just about critique, it feels like mockery. You don't have to be a Stroll fan to understand this. Everyone's got their limits. And when that limit is crossed, something breaks. For Aston Martin, that breaking point was Silverstone. So, what happens now? Will Sky Germany walk back their tone? Will Aston Martin extend an olive branch? Or has a new standard just been set? One where teams demand accountability from the media instead of just hoping for mercy. What's clear is this: F1 is evolving. The paddock isn't just about racing anymore. It's about politics, perception, and control. And in this media age, access is currency. You don't get it for free, you earn it with balance. Final thoughts. Aston Martin just made a bold statement. And whether you agree with them or not, they've sparked a conversation the sport needs. Because when the cameras stop rolling, the microphones go quiet, and the headlines fade, what remains is the question: are we watching Formula One or being fed a filtered version of it? Thanks for watching. If this gave you something to think about, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Was Aston Martin right to block Sky Germany? Or are they dodging fair criticism? Subscribe for more deep dives into the drama, politics, and passion behind Formula One, because the race isn't just on the track, it's everywhere. Imagine being one of the greatest in your field, yet feeling completely useless. That's exactly where Lewis Hamilton found himself after a devastating qualifying session at the Hungarian Grand Prix. He called himself absolutely useless and even told Ferrari, "You probably need to change driver." Meanwhile, his teammate Charles Leclerc shocked everyone by grabbing pole position. This isn't just an on-track rivalry. It's a full-blown battle of confidence, legacy, and the future of Ferrari. Let's break it all down. Saturday's qualifying was like a split-screen drama. On one side, Leclerc delivered a near-perfect lap, securing Ferrari's first major pole of the season. On the other, Hamilton didn't even make it into Q3. Moments later, he was standing in front of the cameras, clearly frustrated, saying, "The team have no problem. You've seen the car is on pole. They probably need to change driver." And then he dropped the words no one expected from a 7-time world champion: "I'm useless. Absolutely useless." The reaction online was immediate. Fans flooded social media, some applauding his honesty, others worried that the pressure might finally be getting to him. Toto Wolff, his former boss at Mercedes, weighed in. He described Hamilton's words as raw and emotional, but he didn't think Lewis was done. In his words, Lewis still has fire. Ferrari team boss Fred Vasseur echoed that sentiment. He said Hamilton was just being intense, focused, demanding, exactly what you'd expect from a driver of his caliber. And then there's Charles Leclerc, the calm in the storm. When asked about Hamilton's comments, and even about the reports that Hamilton had been sharing internal Ferrari documents to help improve the car, Leclerc didn't flinch. He simply said it wasn't anything new, that it's part of the process of building a stronger team. His answer was measured, professional, and quietly confident. But underneath the calm, there's tension. A few weeks ago, former Haas boss Guenther Steiner said something that turned heads. He said Hamilton's personal brand is so powerful, it sometimes feels bigger than Ferrari itself. That's a bold claim, and one that cuts to the core of this story. Ferrari is Ferrari, a name that defines Formula One, but so is Hamilton. And when you put two giants in the same room, egos can collide. This season has already shown cracks. In Miami, the strategy team left Hamilton exposed. In Austria, there were disagreements over setups. Behind the scenes, both drivers are pushing hard to steer the team in their own direction. It's not chaos, but it's not harmony either. And that raises a serious question. Is Ferrari building a team around two leaders or just one? Because right now, it looks like Leclerc is stepping up. He's delivering results, finding rhythm, and staying cool under pressure. Meanwhile, Hamilton, who was brought in to be the game changer, is stuck in a cycle of frustration. After Saturday's qualifying, when asked if he'd return for the next race at Zandvoort, he didn't give a straight answer. He simply said, "Hopefully I'll be back." That's not a statement of confidence. That's a man questioning where he stands. To make matters more intense, Ferrari is at a crossroads with car development. There's one final major upgrade coming, a rear suspension package. If it doesn't work, the team is expected to stop development on the current car and shift all focus to 2026. So this next race, it's make or break, for the car, for the team, and maybe for Hamilton's season. Here's what makes this story truly gripping. On one side, Charles Leclerc, the loyal soldier turned leader, quietly racking up results, letting his driving do the talking. On the other, Lewis Hamilton, a legend trying to reclaim his magic, wrestling with doubt, searching for redemption. And between them, the most iconic team in motorsport history. What happens next isn't just about lap times, it's about identity. Hamilton built his legacy on precision, perfection, dominance. But now he's human, vulnerable, emotional, and that might just be the most powerful version of him yet. So here's the question for you. Do you still believe in Hamilton's Ferrari chapter? Is this just a dip in form or the beginning of the end? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and subscribe for more F1 insights every week. Because this season, it's only just heating up.